All right, men, welcome to today's episode of Strong Men, Strong Marriages, Attachment Styles and Your Marriage. Or maybe another way to think about this is like why you have certain patterns that you can't seem to get out of in your marriage. So, my name is Mike Frazier, MD. I'm a psychiatrist and marriage coach, and I help high achieving Christian men have more intimate marriages. So, some wins from guys in my program this week. So, guys are being able to share the hurt instead of that anger. So, when your wife, for example, says you did something wrong and you come back, you're like, no, I didn't, why do you have to be such a jerk about this? Like, she feels even more justified in what she did. But if you can instead say, hey, like, it's hurtful when you do that, it makes her see that she's acting in a way that's maybe problematic. So sharing that hurt instead of that anger, guys are doing that and having great success. Guys are reconnecting with their friends and having more fun again, which is huge. A lot of times we lose ourselves in the marriage. I know that happened to me. Guys are, as part of the program, we just ask guys to exercise every day as part of it. And guys, they're losing fat, they're gaining muscle, they're getting stronger, which is great. Guys are getting increased self-esteem, increased self-control, feeling more confident than ever, reaching new goals at work, achieving things they hadn't, had been kind of worried about doing before, which is super cool. And guys are having more of that physical, mental, emotional intimacy with their wives, enjoying sex again. It's a great thing. Guys are being honest, sharing things that are hard to share, which can sometimes make things harder for a while. But it's kind of like, it's like if you break a bone and it heals poorly, sometimes you have to re-break that bone and then reset it so that it grows right. And so you have some immediate pain when you're honest about something, but it lets it reset so it grows back stronger and correctly. Okay. This week for me, I was able to support one of my wife's goals of seeing Kelly Clarkson. She got to see her a few times in concert, and that was really, really super fun for her. She had a really amazing experience where she kind of called her out in the audience, and it was great. So super happy for her. So attachment. You may have heard of this. Some of the guys that come in on that I talk to are wondering about attachment and how it works. And, I had some understanding of it, but as I've dug into it more, I'm seeing just how important it is and how useful it can be to look at this. So a lot of this comes from the book Brainstorm by Daniel Siegel, and also Parenting from the Inside Out, also by Daniel Siegel. So people and children especially have this need to feel seen, safe, and soothed is the way he phrases it. And that helps us feel secure. So seeing like, hey, I see what you're feeling. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I hear you, right? Feel safe, like your parent's not going to do anything to hurt you or like seem out of control. And then soothe that, they'll be able to help you feel better. Like the way that they respond to you helps you feel better. So when we get that consistently from our parents, it helps us feel secure. Okay. So again, seen means they're able to see your inner mental life, that your inner mental life is sensed beneath your behavior, that you're addressing more than just the behavior. So for example, if you were, I don't know, I'll just do something from my kids. So if they start throwing things, okay, I can either be, hey, don't throw things, that's not appropriate, don't do that. Or I can try to see their inner mental life and say, okay, hey, you need to stop that, but look, do you feel frustrated? Are you angry? You seem angry, what's going on? Like, that's the difference. And so for me, I definitely used to not do that, and I'm working a lot on doing that, trying to see their inner world instead of just addressing the behavior. Okay, safe is protected from harm, not terrified by parents. So again, like looking at myself, there have been times where my kids have been scared by my angry reactions. I don't like that, but that's the truth. And my wife too. And then soothe, that our parents' response makes us feel better. So again, coming back to like one of my sons throwing stuff around the house. So I can come to him, I can listen to him, and then he can tell me what's going on, and then he's going to feel better after. Again, I've been doing a lot better at this, and I'm seeing luckily with kids, right, especially younger kids, these changes can happen fast, and they can start feeling safer fast. And that's really what I like about these books by Daniel Siegel, is that he's where I feel like a lot of therapy kind of goes wrong is they'll just talk about how, oh yeah, your parents messed you up, they didn't help you feel seen, safe, or heard, that's why you're jacked up and you can't have a good relationship. But and I'll get to this as we go through this podcast today, but his message is, look, yeah, those things happen, but there's a way out of this. There's a way to feeling secure and having secure attachments that we're going to talk about. So anyway, when we feel seen, safe, and soothed, that helps us feel secure in the relationship that we have. Talking about mainly with our parents, this is where these uh, attachment models develop, is during childhood. So let's give like an ideal situation. So let's say you get hurt as a kid. You like scrape your knee. Your mom comes, she sees that scraped knee, she acknowledges, oh yeah, that must hurt, right? She gives you a hug, she puts a band-aid on it. So you're seen, you're safe, you're soothed. Let's say you're crying, right? And yeah, your mom comes in, she sees you crying. Oh, what's wrong? Oh, you hurt your knee. Oh, I'm sorry. Gives you a hug, puts a band-aid on it. Okay, that will help you feel secure. Okay. So when you have secure attachment, you have consistent, attuned parents, parents that do get into your shoes, see what you're feeling, um, help you feel better, right? Seeing safe and soothed, right? They're not flying off the handle, acting in ways that help, that make you feel terrified. Okay. So the message that you get is, my needs are heard and the world will help me get what I want. That's what you grow up kind of believing. Okay. And so in a marriage, what that looks like is you can tolerate closeness and distance. Both of them are fine. You're able to talk about your emotions. You're able to ask for what you want. There's, you're able to get into her shoes. You're able to, have empathy, all of that, and ask for what you want, hold on to what you want, get to win-wins, right? The things we talk about in the program, right? You're able to do that. In parenting, you're doing a good job of giving attunement, right? You're getting into your kids' shoes, you're helping them feel seen, safe, soothed, right? And helping them feel secure, doing that on a consistent basis. So that's the ideal. That's what we're all kind of going towards. Now, his what he says is about half of the U.S. population grew up with that sort of environment. I don't. That seems like a lot to me. I feel like, or maybe that's because I'm, who I'm working with is, what I'm seeing, guys, is that this attachment thing, it has a lot to do with how we relate in our marriages. And so if you have this happy wife, happy life thing, you probably have had some insecure attachment going on in your growing up years. So, um, yeah. So if you were fortunate to have that kind of parents, great, and you can kind of model that and do that. If you weren't, like a lot of people, then you probably have one of these other non-secure or insecure attachments. So one of them is called disorganized attachment. So this is when you have either abusive or just like terrifying parents. So maybe your mom or dad went into just like these extreme fits of anger or rage, or they were just like really up and down emotionally. So you started feeling unsafe, right? You felt kind of terrified. Maybe there was substance abuse, maybe there's mental illness. Basically you grew up in a place where that safety element was not really there. Okay. So the message you receive here is, man, like the person that's scaring me, um, or the person that's hurting me in abuse case is also the person that's supposed to care for me. So this person that like I'm sort of drawn to give me comfort also is the one that's hurting me or scaring me. And so it creates this really tough dynamic for you as a person where you don't know where to go with your needs. Okay. So with the example of her year, mom's the one that puts the band-aid on, but also she's the one that, cut your knee. Okay. She like pushed you down the stairs and that hurt your knee. And then she comes down and gives you hugs like, oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have done that. That kind of thing. Or one day she's pushing down the stairs, the next day she's, happy to see you. Right. So it's tough, right? You get this kind of split idea, like, man, where am I supposed to go to feel seen, safe, and soothed? Because the person that's supposed to do that is also hurting me. So if you grew up in a situation like that, and again, like there could be elements of several of these types of attachment styles for you, for your growing up. A lot of times there is more than one. Um, and yeah, this disorganized is not just abuse, which is the way I used to think about it, but it's more just, it can be just those angry episodes, times where you just felt fearful of what your parents were going to do. Um, so in marriage, right, what can happen? You can push your spouse away and then get really needy. Okay? You can have unbalanced emotions. You can have trouble thinking clearly under stress. You can fly into fits of anger and then feel bad about it later, right? You can sometimes mimic this same thing in your relationships. But really this like, I want to be close to you, but I don't, right? Is what happens a lot in marriage. In parenting, right, you can have these like fits of anger you can't control. What he talks about in his other book, The Low Road, where you really feel out of control, like your anger is so extreme, and it's probably coming from some of this old stuff, okay, that hasn't quite been resolved. But again, the good news is you don't have to go through like years of therapy or whatever to get it resolved. There's some tools you can use to to put you in a better spot pretty quickly. So again, if you had a parent or a situation caregiver where they were out of control and or abusive, you might have that disorganized attachment style where you just don't feel like, again, like you want to be close to someone, but you're worried they're going to hurt you. And so if that kind of is like your marriage, wow, I want to be close to you, but I'm worried, right? I'm worried that you're going to hurt me, you're going to get upset, whatever. Okay, so next is avoidant attachment. So avoidant attachment is going to come from the neglectful or unavailable parent. Okay, so this parent didn't help you feel seen, safe, or soothed. They just kind of were not really around, weren't really interested in what was going on with you, just not really there. So the message that you got overall here is like, okay, my needs aren't going to be heard or met. And so I don't really need this person because they don't give me anything when I need connection or comfort. So basically, I'm going to just take care of myself on my own is the approach that can come out of this. So an example would be you get hurt, you're crying, right? And your parents like, take care of it. Big boys don't cry, go deal with that. So if you grew up in a situation like that, you probably became really independent. You also probably became really bad at being able to acknowledge your own emotions. You're very logical, you're kind of shut off to your emotions, you feel kind of numb. So in your marriage, you probably feel kind of distant from your wife. It's hard to share emotions with her. When she gets emotional, you don't know what the heck to do with that. You also minimize your wants and needs because, again, the message you got was, I got to take care of everything myself. And so, yeah, you don't really ask for what you want because you figure, well, no one's going to do it anyway. So in parenting, you probably mimic a similar thing, which is kind of like you put a high value on independence in your kids. You say you have a kind of get over it mentality with them, like, okay, well, deal with it, right? Figure it out. Instead of again, and this was a lot me, right? With the kids, I definitely had this get over it mentality. Uh, Definitely that kind of like do it yourself mentality. So I think part of it was from my growing up, from different things that happened. And so again, there's benefits to this mentality because you are independent, you get a lot done, but then you're kind of shut down emotionally, and it causes some issues in your marriage. High achieving guys, a lot of them have this kind of mindset. Okay. So then there's ambivalent attachment. So ambivalent is inconsistent or intrusive parents. So what that looks like is, okay, one day, yeah, like I come to my mom with the hurt knee and she's totally responsive and she's great. The next day she like screams at me for crying. The next day she's like in a fit of rage about something random. The next day she's super happy and having fun. So just this like really up and down kind of response. So the message that you take away from this kind of environment is, my needs aren't going to be heard or met consistently. I never know what to expect. The other thing that can happen is this intrusive idea, right? Where her emotions are going to kind of rain down on you. And it's kind of up to you to manage those emotions for her, kind of like keep the peace in the house or that sort of thing. So, um, again, another message you might take from this is if my needs are met, it can vanish in an instant. Okay. So what happens is you don't have like a reliable sense that things will work out in relationships because there was just so much up and down in your growing up. Okay. So similar to disorganized in a way, right? And you can definitely have like disorganized with this where these behaviors can scare you. Okay. If it's really extreme, their anger or substance abuse or whatever, right? But you also kind of take away this message like, okay, sometimes it's okay, but sometimes it's not. And like, yeah, it's just not reliable. I can't count on this. Okay. So again, the idea of scraping your knee, one day she responds in that good way, takes care of you. The next day she screams at you for being so careless, tells you to stop crying. And then she blames herself and she calls herself and she's like, oh, I'm such a bad mom. Can you give me a hug? I need to feel better, right? Kind of puts responsibility on you to take care of her emotions. So that sort of dynamic can create this ambivalent attachment for you, which again is kind of this feeling of, man, like, I just don't know what to expect. Okay. I better kind of take care of her emotions so she doesn't get like wild again. And like, I want to just keep things calm. Okay. But it also creates that sense of distance where you don't really particularly want to be around. You don't really trust yourself to get very close to other people because again, it's like, man, I don't know what to expect here. Some days she might be responsive, some days she might not. And so in a marriage, you can definitely take that happy wife, happy life mindset where it's like, okay, I've got to take care of her emotions so she stays happy. Because if she doesn't, man, like that's not good. Who knows what's going to happen, right? Maybe she's going to freak out. Maybe she's going to leave me. So I got to keep her happy. Okay. You can also take on like a internal responsibility for that. Like, you maybe you take some pride in managing her emotions, but really a lot of it comes from this fear of, hey, if I don't make her happy, something bad's going to happen, from your growing up. Um, and then there's low acknowledgement of your needs and emotions, right? But the thing is, you actually feel those needs really deeply, even though you don't express them very much, because again, you grew up in an environment where sometimes you got it, sometimes you didn't. And so, yeah, you want that connection and you want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to be soothed, you want to feel safe. And so you want that really badly, but it's hard for you to ask for it because you don't think you're going to get it. And so, yeah, a lot of times you're going to feel alone, unseen, unheard, like you're not, doing enough, and then you can later have explosions. So if you are familiar with the mosquito cycle, and we'll get into that and look at it from this attachment viewpoint, a lot of it can come from this. Okay. In parenting, you might mimic the same thing. Some days you're connected, some days you're not. And again, you can get into these like rageful moments because it's something that has come from the past. You're not feeling seen, you're not feeling heard. This is something that I realized recently as I was trying to make my kids responsible for me to feel heard by them. Like it really drove me crazy when they would ignore me or not do what I said. But what I realized it was coming from this, it was coming from not feeling seen or safe or soothed from a long time ago. And so really get insight and again, like I didn't have to go to years of therapy. I might still go to some therapy. I think it'd be helpful, but just to kind of like experience from someone more experienced in these kind of attachment things. And when and if I do, I'll bring it back to you guys and give you some more insight on this. But yeah, you can have those low rage, these what he calls low road or rage outbursts, again because it's coming from this deep need of not being seen, safe, and soothed that you had growing up. So again, looking from that mosquito cycle, so you're doing nice things for your wife, right? You're expecting back attention, appreciation, affection, and sex, or maybe from an attachment viewpoint, you're just wanting that. You're wanting attention, appreciation, affection, sex to have someone help you feel seen, safe, soothed, right? And so you're like, well, this is the way to do it, right? Someone told me happy wife, happy life. If I make her happy, then finally, someone will see me and help me feel safe and help me feel soothed. But then it doesn't happen, right? And so you start getting frustrated, you start getting angry, and then you have these explosions, which again can come from this low road. This is activating something old for me where I wasn't seen, safe, or soothed growing up. So yeah, you turn to pornography, you yell at her, you do whatever. You feel better for a little bit after doing that, but then you're like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And then you're back to doing nice things for, because again, that like need for feeling seen, safe, and soothed is not being met. Okay. And again, I'm not trying to say your wife has to do this for you, because that then you're back in that same thing. But what I'm saying is there's some steps you can take to help you break out of this, right? From an attachment viewpoint. And then also, um, look, it's fine to want to be connected to somebody. That's normal. Like you want your wife to give you attention, appreciation, affection, sex. That's normal, right? It's when you're trying to get her to fill these, childhood and self-worth needs that it's never going to work, right? Um, so what do you need to do? Again, like the thing I like about Daniel Siegel's books is he's very much encouraging that it's not too late, right? Yeah, your parents weren't perfect, but hey, like you can still form secure attachments going forward. So, and the overall solution, the great thing is it's kind of the same for each of those insecure attachment styles. So, the one thing that's really important to do is to make sense of your past, kind of like tell yourself that story. This helps integrate that idea. So, you being able to say, um, instead of, oh yeah, my parents were fine, they were good, they took care of us. That's how I used to really talk about my upbringing, which for the most part, like I believe that they did their best. They were good parents. They were, did the best they could. However, when I really thought about it more closely, like there was some stuff there that, created uh, avoidant, ambivalent, and some disorganized attachment for me. And so really looking at that and owning that and saying, okay, yeah, like here's where I did feel unsafe. Here's where it was inconsistent. Here's where it was kind of avoidant, not really being, taken care of or protected. Yeah, like that happened. And being able to own that and say, okay, like, yeah, that stuff did happen in my upbringing, right? And not trying to like, oh, my parents are the worst and everything's their fault, but just like, no, that happened. And that's part of my growing up. And yeah, so I did kind of develop some of these attachment styles. So it's really important to do that. Okay. Don't just say, oh, yeah, whatever, and this is how I used to approach it is, oh, yeah, that stuff doesn't matter, but it does. It does matter. And so, you know, but not in the sense of I have to blame my parents for everything or whatever, just from the sense of I need to own that that was my experience and then it created these kind of patterns for me. Okay. So do that. Okay. Take some time and say, okay, like, are there times where I did get that message that my needs didn't matter? Was it really inconsistent? Were there times I was terrified of my parents? Or, was there abuse that happened? And just saying, yeah, like that stuff happened. And yeah, so I got these messages that I wasn't going to get taken care of, or at least not consistently, or I had to do everything on my own. Yeah, I did get those messages from growing up. So just owning it, right, it starts to heal you by itself. So take some time and do that, right? The next thing you want to do is start learning to attune to yourself. So attunement, I like that phrase because, I think of it kind of like in a musical sense where if someone's humming a note, like, if you hum the same note, like that's attunement. And so what you want to start doing is attuning to yourself, right? Noticing your emotions, noticing your thoughts. And that's something we work on a lot in our program is really getting in tune with your thoughts and feelings. So you can start seeing yourself. We want to feel seen, safe, and heard. Like when you ignore yourself, you're creating like an avoidant attachment, right? Um, so when you talk mean to yourself, you're basically creating like a disorganized attachment by like basically mentally abusing yourself. So attune to yourself, right? Help yourself feel seen. Yeah, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm feeling. Really letting yourself be seen by yourself, right? Then once you start getting better at attuning to yourself, noticing your thoughts, feelings, right? You start attuning to other people. Okay, like how can I see them better? How can I help them feel seen, safe, and heard, especially with your kids, but also with your wife, right? How can I help her feel seen, safe, and Yeah, and secure, soothed, right? And it really is kind of in that sequence. So we talk a lot of times about just being there with your wife and her emotions. A lot of times is the fix. So that's like being seen, right? How can I really see what's going on with my wife? Try to attune, try to understand what's going on with her emotionally, help her feel seen, and then safe, right? You're not freaking out or just like leaving her, which again probably is going to activate some of these like avoidant or ambivalent attachment things in her if she had some of those. So instead, you're just there with her. And then soothed, right? So you can put your arm around her, you can be with her, you can just sit with her, right? Those are things that help her feel soothed. And then she's going to feel secure in that relationship with you. So seen, safe, soothed, right? But again, like you want to give that to yourself too. Help yourself feel seen, safe, and soothed. Okay. So to help yourself feel seen, first of all, it's like, yeah, I'm having these emotions and they're valid and that's what's going on, right? That helps you feel seen. Then to help yourself feel safe, just remind yourself, hey, like I'm okay, right? This is the present. I'm okay. Talk to yourself kindly, right? Because again, if you're beating yourself up, that'll help you feel unsafe. So, and then to feel soothed, use soothing tools, right? Take some breaths, do something you enjoy, right? Think body, mind, heart, spirit. Do some exercise, right? Do things that will help soothe those emotions. So if you can treat yourself in that way of helping yourself feel seen, helping yourself feel safe, helping yourself feel secured, okay, you'll have a secure relationship internally, and that will then help you have secure relationships externally as well. So yeah, and then you want to learn how to seek for and get support from your wife and others. Okay, express things that you want. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'd like. Right? I'd appreciate this from you. Okay, it's normal to have those desires. Okay, and ask for them. So have those connections. So when you're able to do this, it leads to integration of your brain. What happens is you can get kind of like a split in your brain. And he talks about kind of right and left brain, where like if you're avoidant, your left brain's kind of overly dominant, you're too logical, you're not emotional at all. When you're ambivalent, you're kind of more right brained, you get sort of explosive. Or like in my experience, I think you kind of go between those in ambivalent, right? Where you're like overly logical, shut everything down, and then all of a sudden you're like overly emotional. So I think that happens. In disorganized, you can feel like sort of fragmented, like disorganized, like kind of checked out. You don't really know what's going on. So when we use these skills instead of seen, safe, and soothed, checking in with yourself, really helping yourself feel seen, um, you start integrating your brain, and also like integrating that story of your life and saying, hey, like this was my growing up and it did generate some of these insecure attachment patterns, and that's okay, right? Doesn't mean I hate my parents or anything. It's just that's what happened. And yeah, so now I kind of took this message with me, but I don't have to continue to have that message, right? So what do you need to do this? What skills do you need? You need to be able to self-reflect. You need to be able to tune into yourself and your emotions and your thoughts. Okay. You need to be able to manage your thoughts and emotions using tools that work for you to do that. Okay. You need to be able to help yourself feel seen, safe, and soothed so you can have a secure relationship with yourself. Okay. Then you need to be able to ask for what you want, make your desires known, be able to hold on to yourself and not like have to have your wife agree with everything that you want, but be able to work towards win-wins. A lot of that has to do with you being able to see yourself, help yourself feel seen, safe, and soothed, right? So we can do that. It's easier to do with other people. Okay. So then you need a method to transform your old negative patterns into new positive ones. So you can get this good insight, but then you're going to, have an argument with your wife and some of that old stuff's going to come back. So you need a way to, you know, respond differently that's based on these things. So here's what we do in our program, right? We get to the root of that negative pattern, and this is part of it, right? Figuring out where some stuff came from. Then we create a new one, a new pattern. Then you practice that new one until it's the new habit. It's rewiring your brain and it just works. Okay. But getting to the root is something that we're going to be doing more in the program now to help us see this. Okay. So if you want to do this, if you want to help yourself feel secure in your relationship with yourself and then secure in your relationship with others, seen, safe, soothed, okay, and learn the tools to do that consistently and make these changes, okay, come join us in Strong Men, Strong Managers. We're going to help you do this. Okay. It works. We will help you develop this. Okay. So visit strongmenstrongmarriages.com. There's also a link in the show notes. You'll fill out an application, then come join us. All right. So stay strong, men. And we will see you next episode. And again, visit strongmenstrongmarriages.com to apply to join. We'll see you there.